They warned me about the Titan account on my first day at Stratwell Dynamics. Everyone did. High maintenance, impossible deadlines, and a CEO who fires vendors mid-meeting, one manager whispered, eyes darting around like we were talking about a ghost story. I laughed it off. I'd handled worse, or so I thought. 3 months later, I understood why people whispered. Titan Industries wasn't just demanding. They were volatile. Every email from their executive suite carried an undertone of impatience, like we were constantly one misstep away from annihilation. The project, an end-to-end logistics overhaul worth $340 million, had already burned through 2 project leads and a vice president before it landed on my desk. So when I was called into Martin Cross's office, Stratwell's CEO, I expected the usual pre-assignment pep talk. Instead, he offered me a warning disguised as praise. "You're good at smoothing edges, Ethan," he said, adjusting the gold cufflinks that matched his ego. "But Titan isn't a client. It's a minefield. Step carefully." I smiled. I usually build bridges, not step on mines. He didn't smile back. "Then you'd better be the exception." From day one, it felt like trying to impress a storm. Titan's team tore through our proposals like wolves picking at leftovers. Every meeting ended with the same 2 words from Leah Miles, Titan's COO. "Not enough." Still, something about her tone wasn't cruel. It was honest. Brutal, but fair. I started staying late after everyone left, rewriting entire strategies until midnight. I didn't do it for Stratwell's applause. I did it because I refused to lose to arrogance. Slowly, Leah noticed. She'd reply to my updates directly instead of going through her assistant. Sometimes at 2 a.m., sometimes with a single sentence. "Now this is what I've been asking for." That one message carried more validation than 6 months of Martin's empty compliments. Weeks passed, and the tone of our calls shifted. She started asking my opinion on parts of the project outside my scope, budgets, design choices, even internal bottlenecks on her end. I wasn't supposed to give advice that personal, but I did anyway, because she listened, because she respected the work. One Thursday night, after a particularly brutal systems test, Leah stayed on the line after the rest of her team signed off. "You sound exhausted," she said. I laughed quietly. "You sound disappointed." "I'm not. Just surprised you're still awake." Progress reports don't finish themselves. There was a pause, one of those rare silences that doesn't feel awkward, just honest. Then she said, "You ever sleep?" "Not when the future of logistics depends on me." She chuckled. "You're either incredibly dedicated or dangerously bored." That was Leah, direct, unfiltered, the kind of leader who reminded you that competence could still exist at the top. The next week she asked to meet in person. "No suits," she said. "No slides, just dinner. Let's talk like humans for once." I hesitated. Stratwell had rules about unstructured client interaction. There were entire slideshows about maintaining professional distance. But what those slides never mentioned was what to do when professionalism gets in the way of progress. So I agreed. It was a small Italian place downtown. No assistants, no contracts, just 2 professionals who'd spent months trying to untangle a corporate disaster. We didn't talk metrics or KPIs. We talked about people. How bureaucracies kill ideas. How leadership without empathy is just dictatorship with a logo. By the time dessert arrived, she said something that stuck with me. "You're the first person from Stratwell who doesn't treat us like a paycheck." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. "Maybe that's why I'll never be CEO." She laughed. "Don't underestimate yourself, Ethan. You might surprise them." The next morning, I arrived at the office to find silence. Not the calm kind, the heavy kind that sits in the air before something breaks. People looked up as I walked in. Conversations stopped. My calendar pinged with a new meeting invite from HR. Subject, conduct review, mandatory attendance. No details, no context. My stomach dropped. I didn't need details. I already knew what it was about. The dinner that saved the client was about to cost me everything else. When HR sends a conduct review with no explanation, it's never a conversation. It's a decision waiting for your signature. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. sharp. I barely slept the night before. Not because I felt guilty, because I didn't. That dinner had saved the project, the client, and probably a few people's jobs. But Stratwell wasn't built to reward initiative. It was built to protect authority. The HR conference room smelled like coffee and caution. Dana, the HR director, sat across from me, flanked by Gerard, a corporate counsel who could make eye contact feel like cross-examination. A third chair sat empty for Martin Cross, who always made an entrance. "Ethan," Dana began, smiling too hard. "Thanks for coming in. We just need to clarify a few details about a recent client interaction." I folded my hands. "Titan Industries?" She nodded. "Specifically, a dinner with Ms. Miles." Gerard opened a folder thick with paper. "Can you confirm that this dinner took place last Thursday?" "Yes." "Was anyone else present?" "No." "And did you expense this dinner through the corporate account?" "No, I paid for it myself." They both paused, like I'd skipped a line in their script. Dana leaned forward. "So, a private dinner, after hours, off the company record?" "It was business," I said evenly. "We discussed ongoing deliverables and strategy adjustments. The dinner kept the client from walking away. Gerard's pen clicked 3 times before he spoke. "Were drinks involved?" I laughed quietly. "You're not serious." Dana gave me a tight smile. "Ethan, you understand that meeting with clients one-on-one, outside approved settings, exposes both you and Stratwell to reputational risk. And saving a $340 million account doesn't?" That one made her blink. She looked down, searching for another scripted line. Then the door opened, and Martin walked in. No greeting, just presence. He sat at the head of the table, unbuttoned his suit jacket, and exhaled like a man forced to deal with something beneath him. "Ethan," he said, "do you know how this looks?" "Yes," I said. "It looks like I cared enough to stop the client from leaving." He shook his head slowly. "You went rogue. Titan is sensitive. Leah Miles has a reputation for being persuasive. You compromised the chain of command." I stared at him. "You mean I talked to her directly?" "I mean you made decisions without approval. Because approval takes 3 weeks and 3 committees. That's how process works," he snapped. I held his gaze. "No, Martin. That's how failure works." The room went still. HR avoided eye contact. Gerard cleared his throat and slid a paper across the table. "Effective immediately," he said. "Your access to client systems is suspended pending a formal review. We recommend you refrain from any contact with Titan until the matter is resolved." There it was, the corporate guillotine, slow, silent, and dressed in legalese. I stood, took the paper, and said, "You're making a mistake." Martin's expression didn't change. "We'll decide that." As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass wall. Tie straight, shoulders back, calm on the outside. Inside, a fuse had already been lit. That evening, I did something that broke another rule. I answered a call from Leah. She sounded more annoyed than surprised. "What happened, Ethan? Your team's acting like I'm radioactive. Did I miss something?" I hesitated, then told her the truth. "They're investigating me for having dinner with you." There was silence, followed by an incredulous laugh. "You're kidding." "I wish I was." "They fired people at Stratwell for incompetence, sure," she said, "but for professionalism? That's new." Apparently, I crossed a boundary. "By building trust," she said sharply. "Do they even realize we were about to renew the contract for another 3 years?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She already knew. Her voice softened. "I'm sorry, Ethan. You didn't deserve that." I smiled faintly. Corporate doesn't do deserve. It does optics. "Then maybe it's time they see what bad optics really look like," she said. "Leah, don't worry," she interrupted. "I won't let this slide." The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, the phone still warm in my hand. The city lights blinked through the window like Morse code, spelling something I didn't yet understand. That dinner had changed everything, and by morning, the storm was going to break. By Monday, the whispers had teeth. You can always tell when a company's turned on you. It starts in the hallways, not in the boardroom. Conversations stop when you enter. Jokes shift mid-sentence. People suddenly discover urgent emails the moment you look their way. By the second cup of coffee, I was already guilty of something. They just hadn't decided what yet. At 10:17 a.m., the message came through. From Dana Cole, HR Director. Subject, formal conduct hearing. Confidential. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. The phrasing was clinical, detached, following recent concerns regarding boundary violations with a client representative. The words boundary violations burned like acid. They didn't just mean policy breach, they meant character flaw. I walked into the HR conference room at 11 sharp. The air was colder this time. 2 new faces, Corporate Counsel number 2 and Compliance Director number 1, sat beside Dana, papers already stacked like a verdict.
"Ethan," Dana began, voice sugar over ice. "This isn't punitive. We're simply clarifying the facts." "I've noticed your facts come with exit paperwork," I said. She blinked. "Let's start at the beginning. The dinner with Ms. Miles. Was it personal or professional?" "It was professional." "Yet there were no other Stratwell representatives present." "No." "And you paid for the dinner personally?" "Yes." "Would you agree that such a meeting might be construed as an attempt to curry favor with a client outside approved business channels?" "Would you agree," I said evenly, "that saving a $340 million account might be construed as doing my job?" That silenced her for a moment, but Gerard, the compliance guy, leaned forward, elbows sharp. "Mr. Vale, we've also received concerns from internal staff suggesting that Ms. Miles displayed favoritism toward you." I stared at him. "Favoritism?" He nodded. "Direct communication bypassing management, unsupervised meetings, positive feedback sent only to you." "So," I said, "you're saying she liked my work?" He smiled thinly. "We're saying that can be misinterpreted." "Only by people looking for something to misinterpret." The tension in the room was surgical. Every word I said was a thread they could pull later. So I gave them nothing extra, no anger, no cracks. Then Martin walked in. Again. Same suit, same cologne, same performative disappointment. He didn't sit. "Ethan, this has gone further than I wanted," he said. "But we have to protect the company's reputation. We're considering a leave of absence while we evaluate your role on the Titan account." I met his eyes. "A leave of absence or a public execution?" He sighed, glancing at Dana. "Please escort Mr. Vale back to his desk to collect his personal items." That was it. The end of a 5-year career, wrapped in corporate courtesy. I packed in silence. No one spoke. Not one handshake, not one goodbye.
My inbox had already been wiped. The IT team had worked faster than they ever did for paying clients. As I walked toward the elevator, I saw the reflection of the Stratwell logo in the glass. Sharp, polished, and empty. Behind it, people pretending not to watch. When the elevator doors closed, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Leah Miles. They really did it. I typed back. They did. Her reply came fast. Then they've just made the most expensive mistake of their lives. I stared at the screen as the elevator descended, floors blinking past like seconds in a countdown. When the doors opened, the lobby light hit me like morning after a storm, blinding, cold, and liberating. For the first time in years, I didn't belong to Stratwell Dynamics. And in a few days, neither would Titan's $340 million. Because sometimes, the only thing more dangerous than a man with power is a man who's just lost everything he's willing to lose. They scheduled my execution for Friday at 4:30 p.m., a time chosen for maximum quiet and minimum witnesses. The calendar invite was titled Final Review. The only people in attendance were HR, legal, and the illusion that I had a say. Dana's smile had the softness of a padded wall. Gerard's tie was a new shade of conciliatory pastel. Martin arrived last, removing his cufflinks like the room was humid with poor decisions. "Ethan," he began, voice tempered, "we have concluded the investigation into your conduct with Titan." I folded my hands. "And?" Gerard slid a stapled packet across the table. "Your behavior violates our client interaction protocol. Section 4.2 forbids unsupervised off-site meetings. Section 6.1 prohibits any exchange that might be construed as undue influence. Accordingly, Stratwell is terminating your employment, effective immediately." I flipped through the pages, reading bones and sawdust. The last page held a non-disparagement clause, a confidentiality clause, and a non-compete so broad it made the map look small. "No severance?" I asked. Dana cleared her throat. "Given the nature of the breach, we're offering 2 weeks' pay, contingent on your signature and full cooperation." I set the packet down. "You want me silent enough to make the math work?" Martin's expression hardened. "We're protecting the firm." "You're protecting your authority," I said. "Titan didn't complain. Leah didn't complain. You did, because a dinner proved your process was the bottleneck." The room cooled another degree. Gerard reached for the pen by my hand and set it closer. A polite shove. "Let's be practical. Let's be honest," I said. "You're firing the only person Titan trusted." Martin exhaled sharply, the way men do when the script stops working. "Trust is institutional here, Ethan, not personal. Tell that to the person who signs your invoices." Silence stretched, thin and precise. Somewhere down the hall, a printer barked out pages like distant artillery. I initialed nothing. I pushed the packet back. "I won't sign away my voice," I said. "Terminate me if you need to, but I won't help you pretend this is anything but fear." Martin's jaw worked once. "Then we'll proceed without your cooperation." Security arrived as if summoned by a thought. 2 polite ghosts. They didn't touch me, they accompanied me, a choreography of liability. I boxed my desk in neat motions, the coffee mug, a notebook, a pen that actually wrote. My access badge blinked red for the final time like a small, dying lighthouse. On the walk to the elevator, I passed the trophy wall, glossy photos of handshakes and panels and promises. I found the Titan plaque in the middle row. I'd written the proposal that won it. My name wasn't on the brass. The elevator doors closed. When they opened again, freedom smelled like lobby air and rain. Outside, the city was rinsed clean. Streetlights pooled in the pavement like small galaxies. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. I heard, "Give me an hour." I stood under an awning, watching the traffic sort itself by urgency. An hour later, in a quiet cafe that preferred steam to music, Leah sat across from me. No entourage, no armor. "They told me you resigned," she said. "They told me I was a liability," I replied. Her laugh was brief and humorless. "They terminated the only stable bridge we had. Do they know I was about to renew your contract for 3 years? I suspect they thought process mattered more than outcomes." "Process is how bureaucrats feel useful," she said. "Outcomes are how companies survive." We sat with the truth for a moment. The barista called a name that wasn't mine. Outside, a bus sighed into a stop. Leah leaned forward. "Do you want to keep building this?" she asked. "Without them?" The question landed like a key in a lock I didn't realize I still carried. "With Titan?" "With Titan," she said. "Or with anyone who values results over ritual. I'm moving the account either way." I searched her face for the catch, the clause, the hidden line item. There wasn't one. She looked tired and certain. "Martin will fight," I said. "Martin will posture," she corrected. "Then he'll read the termination clause we just triggered for loss of trust." I didn't smile. Not yet. You don't gloat on the ledge between stories. You breathe. You decide. You step. "I'll need a home," I said. "An entity. A banner that isn't theirs." "Find one by Monday," she said, standing. "I'll find the rest." She left like the end of a scene. Clean exit, no wasted movement. I stayed long enough to finish a cup of cooling coffee and a thought that felt like a future. On the sidewalk, the rain had turned to mist. I dialed a number I'd been saving for someday. A partner at Alder & Company, the rival Stratwell loved to underestimate. When he answered, I said 12 words that rearranged my life. "I have a $340 million problem you'll want to inherit." The pause on the line was brief, electric. "Let's talk," he said. And just like that, the fall became a landing. The Monday after my firing, the office lights of Stratwell Dynamics glowed without me for the first time in 5 years. I should have felt relief, but instead there was just a strange kind of stillness, not quiet like peace, quiet like the air before a verdict. People stopped texting. The few who did sent harmless emojis, vague well wishes, the corporate equivalent of a funeral card. No one wanted to be caught sympathizing with a man branded unprofessional. Inside Stratwell, my name had already been rewritten as risk. I stayed home, staring at my laptop. Emails from recruiters half open and ignored. I didn't want a new job. I wanted my name back. Then, on Tuesday morning, it happened. My phone buzzed with a message from Leah Miles. "They told me you breached ethics. Is that their final story?" "Apparently," I texted back. "Dinner is a crime now." She called immediately. Her tone wasn't angry. It was surgical. I asked Martin to explain. He said you violated client interaction policy. I asked him for specifics. He changed the subject. That's what he does when he runs out of vocabulary. There was a pause. I heard her exhale through what sounded like restrained fury. "They made a mistake, Ethan. A public one. I've already informed the Titan board we're reviewing the Stratwell partnership." "Reviewing?" I asked. Her voice sharpened. "You saved that contract. They fired you for it. You think I'm staying with them?" The line went quiet. I could almost hear her smile. "Don't answer that. You'll understand soon enough." Then she hung up. 2 days later, Stratwell's internal memo leaked. Someone forwarded it to me. A confidential communication Martin had sent to the executive team. Subject: reputational integrity and client conduct. Effective immediately, Stratwell Dynamics will no longer tolerate individual relationships that compromise corporate boundaries. Our recent separation from Ethan Vale should serve as a reminder. Personal behavior can never supersede professional protocol. It was a masterpiece of hypocrisy, and within hours it was on LinkedIn. By the next morning, industry media had picked it up. Consulting firm fires employee over client dinner. Sources say client furious. The storm began. Inside Stratwell, panic spread faster than truth. A former colleague, someone I'd mentored, called me quietly that afternoon. Her voice trembled. "They're freaking out, Ethan. Titan's threatening to walk. The board's holding emergency calls. HR's pretending this was mutual, but no one's buying it." I didn't speak. I just listened to the sound of a collapsing empire. "Martin's saying you went rogue. He told the partners the dinner was inappropriate. But Titan's team keeps defending you." Leah apparently called him an arrogant bureaucrat during a meeting. That almost made me laugh. "She's not wrong." "It's chaos," she said. "The Titan renewal was our biggest account. Without it, Stratwell's done." "Then I guess we'll both find out what loyalty's really worth," I said. By Friday, I had my answer. A press release went live on Titan's investor site. Titan Industries terminates strategic partnership with Stratwell Dynamics effective immediately. Reason: irreconcilable differences in leadership ethics and operational integrity. No names, no drama, just the cold public handwriting of justice. Martin must have seen it at the same moment I did. His response came in an unexpected form, a voicemail. I almost didn't listen, but curiosity has a cruel sense of humor. "Ethan, I hope you're proud of yourself. You've cost this company millions. I trusted you." I replayed it once, then deleted it. He still thought this was about money. That evening, I met Leah at the same restaurant where it all began. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She sat across from me, her posture calm, eyes sharp. "Stratwell called this unprofessional bonding," she said. "I call it results." I raised a glass. "To boundaries." She smirked. "To the ones worth crossing." Then she leaned in. "I've spoken with Alder & Co. Their boards agreed to take over the Titan contract. They want you to lead the transition. Senior strategist. Full autonomy." I blinked. "That's a big move." "It's the right one," she said simply. "You earned it. Stratwell just gave me the excuse." I looked down at my glass, the reflection trembling under the soft restaurant lights. 5 days ago, I was a liability. Now, I was the man they'd lost everything to keep. As we stood to leave, Leah said something that stayed with me. "The thing about arrogance is it doesn't die loudly. It rots quietly. And Martin Cross just started to smell it." Outside, the city lights flickered like applause. I walked home with the first real sense of stillness I'd felt in months. Not the silence of exile, the silence before something begins. By Monday morning, Stratwell would be holding crisis meetings. By Monday afternoon, I'd be sitting at my new desk at Alder. And by Monday evening, the $340 million contract that built Martin's empire would officially have my name on it. The dinner they called misconduct was about to become the most expensive meal Stratwell ever paid for. Corporate implosions don't happen in explosions. They happen in whispers, missed calls, and the slow decay of confidence. By the time Monday rolled around, Stratwell Dynamics had stopped being a company and started being a rumor. From my new office at Alder & Company, I watched it unfold in real time. The first signs came through internal leaks on LinkedIn, Stratwell employees posting vague goodbyes, thanking incredible colleagues for an unforgettable journey. That's code for layoffs. By noon, Titan's termination had hit Bloomberg. The numbers were right there in bold text. $340 million contract withdrawn. effective immediately. Alder's boardroom erupted in cautious celebration. Not loud, not gloating, the kind of silent acknowledgement that power had quietly shifted. Leah walked in, coffee in one hand, the press release in the other. Stratwell just announced a strategic restructuring, she said, smirking. Translation? They're bleeding out. I turned my screen so she could see. They've lost 2 more clients already. Word's out. No one wants to be the next Titan. She studied me for a moment. You don't look happy about it. I'm not, I said. I just thought it would feel better watching them fall. It never does, she said softly. Karma doesn't always taste sweet. Sometimes it just tastes inevitable. By Wednesday, Stratwell's collapse was complete. Someone inside, probably a frightened partner, sent Marina, Alder's in-house counsel, a copy of the internal board memo. She printed it out and dropped it on my desk like evidence from a crime scene. Confidential. Loss of Titan account has triggered a liquidity crisis. Outstanding obligations to staff and creditors exceed available reserves. Recommend initiating acquisition talks or voluntary dissolution. Martin Cross's name was still at the bottom. His signature looked smaller than I remembered. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. The number flashed familiar. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Then I picked up. Ethan. His voice sounded dry, cracked. Congratulations. On what? On destroying the company that trained you. I leaned back in my chair. I didn't destroy Stratwell, Martin. You did. I just stopped letting you use me as the shield. He chuckled bitterly. You think Titan left because of me? They left because of ego. Yours, Leah's, everyone's. You made it personal. It was personal the moment you called integrity misconduct. Silence, then a quiet sigh. You always were righteous. No, I said. I was useful. You just forgot the difference. He started to speak again, but I hung up. Some endings don't need full sentences. That evening, Alder held a private dinner for the Titan transition team. No press, no champagne towers, just a table full of people who'd earned their place there. Leah raised her glass. To doing the work right, she said, and to the people who remember what that means. Everyone clinked glasses. I didn't say much, just listened to the hum of quiet victory, the kind that doesn't need headlines. When the dinner ended, I lingered outside. The city looked almost the same as it had the night I was fired. Same skyline, same rain on the pavement, but I wasn't the same man standing under it. I pulled up my phone. News alerts filled the screen. Breaking, breaking. Stratwell Dynamics CEO Martin Cross steps down amid client exodus. Sources: potential fraud investigation underway after internal audit leak. I read them once, locked the phone and slid it back into my pocket. I didn't need to forward them to anyone. Karma doesn't need an audience. The next morning, Leah walked into my office with a contract folder and a quiet smile. Titan's board just approved Phase 2, she said. Full international rollout. Your name's on every page. I took the folder, still half expecting to wake up. 340 million, I murmured. That number used to terrify me. Now it's just Tuesday, she said. I laughed, closing the folder. So this is what winning feels like. She shook her head. No, Ethan. This is what deserving feels like. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I opened my laptop. A message sat in my inbox. Anonymous. Unsigned. You were right about him. About all of it. The board should have listened. Take care of Titan. Some of us believed in you. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. It didn't matter who sent it. In a world that rarely says sorry, that single line was enough. Stratwell was gone. The machine that once consumed me had finally eaten itself, and somewhere in its ruins was a lesson I didn't expect to learn. Sometimes you don't need revenge. Sometimes you just need to survive long enough to watch the truth do it for you. He asked for 15 minutes, not by email, by handwritten note, slid under my office door like a relic from a time when ink could fix what power had ruined. Ethan. For what it's worth, I'd like to speak face to face. M. I could have ignored it. I could have framed it. Instead, I chose a cafe 2 blocks from Alder's lobby. Neutral ground, small tables, no corners to hide in. When I walked in, Martin Cross was already there, the tan laced out of his face, the tailored confidence replaced by a suit that suddenly looked like it belonged to someone else. He stood, half reaching for a handshake before remembering who he was to me now. "Thank you for coming." "I have 10 minutes," I said. He nodded, sat, and wrapped both hands around a coffee he wasn't drinking. "You won," he said. "Congratulations." "Nothing about this feels like a game." He looked past me, toward the window, where Alder's logo across the street reflected in rain. "The board asked me to step down," he said, voice even. "I'm leaving Stratwell." I saw the release. Silence stretched. The machine hissed behind the counter. The air smelled like citrus and failure. He exhaled. "I wasn't always like this," he said. "I built Stratwell from nothing. I kept it alive when bigger firms tried to gut us. I did what I had to." "You did what was easy," I said. "You mistook control for leadership and process for proof." A flicker of anger crossed his eyes and vanished. "You have Leah," he said. "Titan followed you. You'll never admit it, but that dinner saved your contract," I finished, "and you fired me for it." He pinched the bridge of his nose, a gesture I'd seen in 100 tense meetings. "I had rules for a reason. You had rules so no one could show you the reason you were wrong." He looked smaller in that moment, not because he'd lost a title, but because he'd lost the room he'd spent a career making people enter on his terms. "I'm not here to argue," he said. "I'm here to ask." I waited. "Bring Titan back," he said quietly. "Consult for us. Let us rebuild. I'll put you on the masthead. Partner track. Autonomy. I can make the board—" "You can't make the board do anything anymore," I said. "And even if you could, I wouldn't." His mouth tightened. "You're angry." "I was," I said. "Now I'm busy." A laugh slipped out of him, brittle. "You always did like the moral high ground." "I like outcomes," I said. "Leah does too. Clients don't leave companies, Martin. They leave arrogance. You asked me for trust and punished me for earning it." He stared at me for a long time, and for once he didn't try to fill the silence. Outside, a bus sighed at the curb. My phone buzzed. Leah. Phases 2 countersigned. Phase 2 countersigned. Board unanimous. Dinner on me tonight? I flipped it face down. Martin noticed. "More good news," he said. "Just work," I said. He leaned back and something unclenched in his posture. Acceptance or exhaustion, I couldn't tell. "You think I don't know what I did?" he asked softly. "I made the firm about me, about my rules. I called that culture. Maybe I mistook fear for respect." "Maybe?" I said, but there was no venom left to pour on the word. The ledger had already balanced without me. He looked at the door like a man approaching weather. "Alder offered you the world," he said. "They always wanted Titan. You were their ticket." No, I said. Results were the ticket. I just carried them." He managed a smile that didn't quite arrive. You won't gloat, will you?" "That's the difference between us," I said. "I don't need the room to know I'm right." He nodded slowly, stood, and slid a business card across the table. Not Stratwell. His name, a number, and nothing else. "If you ever need a reference." "For what?" I asked. He considered, then pocketed it again. "For the day you have to choose between your rules and someone else's results." I rose. We were an arm's length apart, old gravity still tugging. "Here's what I learned," I said. "Write rules that protect the work, not the ego. If you can't do that, get out of the way of someone who can." He hesitated, then stuck out his hand. I shook it. Not mercy, not absolution, just acknowledgement of the hours, the battles, the bridge finally burned. As I turned to go, he said my name. I looked back. "Do it better than I did," he said, "or this all ends the same." Outside, the rain had softened to a mist that made the city look newly drawn. I crossed to Alder's lobby, where a receptionist waved me through with the ease of a place that expected me. In the elevator, my phone buzzed again, a second text from Leah. "Also, Titan wants you in Zurich next week. Bring the transition roadmap." The doors opened on the top floor. My reflection in the stainless steel blurred as I stepped out. A junior analyst passed me in the hall, eyes bright, clutching a stack of drafts like a future. "Morning, Ethan," she said. "Got a minute to look at a model?" "Always," I said, and meant it. In my office, I stood at the window for a moment and watched Stratwell's lights flicker in the distance, a constellation losing bulbs one by one. Not triumph, perspective. The map had changed, that was all. On my desk lay the Phase 2 binder, my name clean on the spine. I opened it, signed where flagged, and slid it back into its sleeve. Then I wrote a single line on a sticky note and stuck it inside the front cover for whoever borrowed it next. "Clients don't follow companies. They follow the people who show up." I sent Leah a thumbs up, grabbed my jacket, and headed to a meeting where the only thing that mattered was the work. Behind me, the city kept raining. Ahead of me, dinner reservations waited where all of this began. Not as ritual, not as defiance, but as a reminder that sometimes the shortest distance between collapse and creation is a table, 2 chairs, and the truth. 6 months later, I found myself back in the same restaurant where all of it began. Same table near the window, same low jazz humming through the speakers, same scent of roasted garlic and rain on the street outside. Different everything else. Across from me sat Leah, calm as ever, phone face down, sleeves rolled up. The kind of quiet power that doesn't need to remind anyone it's in control. Titan's global expansion had launched flawlessly under Alder. We'd opened 6 new distribution hubs across 3 continents and cut operational costs by 22% in the first quarter. The industry called it the Vireo turnaround, a title that made me cringe, but Leah loved it. Tonight wasn't a strategy dinner. It was something closer to a ritual. Our quiet acknowledgement of how far the truth had traveled since that first conversation over pasta. She lifted her glass, a small smile forming. "You realize this place should give us royalties," she said. "Or at least our own table plaque," I replied, "right under where $340 million changed hands." She laughed, soft and genuine. "If they only knew." "They will," I said. "Someone always tells the story eventually." For a long moment, we just sat there in silence, the comfortable kind. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Inside, I finally felt what peace really was. Not stillness, but alignment. She glanced at me. You ever think about him? Martin? She nodded. Sometimes, I admitted. Not the anger, though, just the system he built, the way it taught people that fear keeps order. She tilted her glass thoughtfully. He called me last month. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, a consulting offer? Something like that. He's advising a small firm now, said he's learning to listen more. I chuckled. That might be the most expensive lesson he's ever paid for. He said you taught him that. I shook my head. He taught himself. I just stopped shielding him from consequences. She smiled at that, eyes narrowing with warmth. You always were too diplomatic for revenge. Revenge wastes time, I said. Truth doesn't. The waiter brought the check. Leah reached for it automatically. I stopped her. My turn, I said. She grinned. Trying to balance karma? Trying to finish the story. We stepped out into the night. The city had that golden, post-rain glow, the kind that makes everything look cinematic for a few minutes before reality takes back control. Leah paused under the awning. You know, Stratwell's collapse is still case study material. Business schools are dissecting it. Good, I said. Maybe the next generation will recognize the warning signs before they need a courtroom to teach them. She turned toward me, her tone soft but deliberate. You built something better, Ethan. That's your legacy. I met her gaze, then looked out over the street. No, I said quietly. We did. You gave me a chance when everyone else needed a scapegoat. She shrugged. That's what leaders are supposed to do. Bet on the right people. Then maybe we both learned from Martin, I said. Weeks later, I received an invitation in the mail. A thick, embossed envelope with no return address. Inside was a simple note. From Martin Cross. To Ethan Vale. I hear you're speaking at the Global Leadership Summit. Tell them this. Control doesn't build companies. Conviction does. M. I smiled, folded the note, and slipped it into my jacket pocket. At the summit, I spoke to a packed room about trust, leadership, and integrity, the unglamorous virtues that hold billion-dollar decisions together. I didn't name Stratwell. I didn't name Martin. I didn't need to. Everyone in that room had heard the story. The hardest thing about doing the right thing, I told them, is that it rarely feels like victory in the moment. It feels like loss. But the truth has a strange habit of outliving arrogance, and when it finally resurfaces, it doesn't roar. It just stands there quietly, undefeated. The applause came slow, then built. Afterward, a young consultant approached me and asked, "What was the turning point for you?" I smiled. "Dinner," I said. "A conversation that started with business and ended with freedom." That night, I walked through the city alone, coat collar up against the wind. The lights shimmered off the wet streets, and I thought about all the words that had been said, all the meetings that had ended with silence, all the rules that had tried to keep people from doing what's right. In the end, one small act of humanity, a shared meal, a genuine connection, had undone an empire built on control. Leah had once told me, arrogance dies quietly. She was right. But integrity? Integrity survives loudly, in every result, every rebuild, every second chance. And somewhere between loss and victory, I found peace in the only place that ever mattered. The table where the truth was first spoken.